Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 157th episode of the House of Light expansion for Book of Hours, first run on YouTube, playing as the Archaeologist. Today, we want to try and carve out a little bit more from Autumn. So we're reading the Sun Disfigured, but that's for the memory. We're reading 5 creations to get the Resurgences and Emergences memories. We're doing that so that we can level up Sea Stories and or Desires and Dissolutions. I haven't actually quite worked out which of these I want to bring up first. But to do that, we're going to need Grail and Moon memories. Those aren't that hard for me to get, so let's work on that right now. All right, and actually probably best bet is to go top to bottom as usual. Matters and Deeds of Serpents is Secret Threshold, so that's Rose. Forge and Lantern, Moth Nectar. This'll get me Moon, though. Which of these did I use before? I think we might be on to Letters of a Fugitive. Contradictions will work. I just don't remember how far we were along the lines here. I think we did Victory of Crowns, but we may have done Book of Thrones as well, but I'll do that here. We may wind up reading it a second time anyway. Similar story here. I'm going to make an executive decision and do the Kukerbit Prisoner Records 1928 just because we did the other one. Where was that? Up here. 27. Last session. This won't work because we don't have VAC. This is probably overdoing at this point, but... And then here, I could try and generate taste, but honestly, because I've already used up all the desks, I might as well just read the Impulse book. Oh, or the Satisfaction, for that matter. Fairy book. I've carried a memory like a flambeau, safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come, and the fog will help us too. Alright, Denzel rarely works for free, but he won't charge for helping the... I can't remember exactly what the phrase on that is. But at this point, we're just sort of sitting and waiting for the book to finish anyway. At some point, I would like to try and earn a bit of money at the Sweet Bones, but that isn't a major priority for today. I first want to see what I can get from the visitor, and then we can look into alternatives. Okay, there's a fear. He does a lot with silence, this man. We'll have a little more flexibility on the second batch. Or, well, it's not so much batches, but basically we've got one book which we're reading right now, and then I can fill in with, I guess it's the Impulse in this case. The Berry Book. Thirza Blake, 7th librarian of Hush House, talks about fruit for no other apparent reason, but that it was the kind of thing that she did. She talks about fruit in the woven language Killisimi. So I'm just going to move this out of the way. Who was it once said, fruit is the womb of a plant? It was me. Take a few moments to think on that in ripened wisdom. I shall leave a blank space for your moments here in this page. Nectar, children mine, cast my words into a sufficiency of nectar, and watch the Pyrus Persimmon burst from wood. Gather more nectar, wring it from the trees and earth, and our Persimmon gushes forth the sacrament. You will thank me. The Book of Thrones, a legend of the Shadowless Empire, transcribed by Alexander Peterhans from Annals at a Secret Shrine in Anatolia. And the first and greatest history, a subject of the Shadowless Empire of Persia, travels to the west, to the kingdom of the Persids. There he becomes a protege of the tutelary Persid deity, the Scarred Man, who lives in the dark. He returns after 7 years to put his skills at the service of the Shadowless Empire, becoming their golden general. After many years of peace, the heirs of the Persids move against the King of Kings in the Shadowless Empire. The Golden General will not take up arms against the blood of his mentor until the King of Kings whispers a great secret of betrayal in his ear. He breaks his sword, forswears his oath to both Empire and Scarred Man, and enters the temple behind the world, leaving his life behind. Skeleton Songs, poems of greedy delight, composed by the possibly pseudonymous Arbella Dusk, the rumored heiress turned madam turned poetess. In Arbella's introduction, she explains that the book was to be illustrated, but that the Suppression Bureau would not permit it. She hints that the illustration still exists somewhere. The book is dedicated to Sir Parzival of the Red Cup. The 26 delightful fruits, the 7 chastisements, the 9 gardens, the 4 regrets. Deaths and Their Evasions. Father Stanislav John Schaller writes of the means and limitation of passage between the orders of the Mansus. No long names ours. Unusually, Father John has written this book in Fusine, for he says a special secrecy. He speaks very cautiously of the exceptions that can sometimes be made to the edicts of Chancel and Calyptra, and hints at the means by which he successfully returned a lantern long to flesh. Schaller mentions most cautiously of all that he has been permitted to see a book that speaks more deeply on the matter, but that it was surrendered into the shadow of a covenant stone of the Watchman's Tree. It can be retrieved if the 99th wink is reserved under the edict's liminal. Seek unusual help? Here's an opportunity. So the consulting engineer may actually be a good acquisition. The consulting engineer has stopped by the Sweet Bones on the way home, so gives Forge, Sky, and Lantern. So this may help me overcome a couple of the shortcomings with the tasks I was working with Denzel on. The Sun Disfigured, a scroll of anthropoderm parchment written in the golden ink called Uzalt. This book houses a numen, a truth so powerful it can perhaps believe itself. The author of the text calls herself the Elegabline. Sometimes she seems to be Sunset Celia, the Watchman's name. Sometimes she seems to be Lady Tryphon, the Grail Long. It is unclear whether these are separate entities or the same person. It may be unclear even to the writer. The flaws in the Sun's plan are elucidated. The Sun's plan itself is never entirely clear, but it is a project of some kind to enter, possess, or surrender to the glory, the pure light above the Mansus. This book suggests ways in which that plan might fail. I'll try to avoid using that if I can. Letters from a Fugitive. Lars Westergren, explorer and murderer, spent 7 years escaping justice through his knowledge of byways and shortcuts in the bounds. Throughout that time, he wrote regularly to his daughter, possibly in part to taunt his pursuers. A year with the Legion de Sul, patrolling the bounds, until he deserts. A month in the Priory of Captains in Morbihan. 7 days, or so he claims, in Ye's Behind the Wave. Cornered at last by his pursuers, Westergren writes that he will attempt the paths of the sun. He doesn't seem sanguine about his chances, and indeed this is his last letter. An editor's note adds that Westergren's whereabouts or end remain unknown, although he was supposedly sighted at the Christmas market in Vienna, the negotiations between invisible underworld figures that happen each year there in 1929. Kukurbit Prisoner Records, 1928, accounts by Governor Collar's private secretary of interventions and experiments in the last years of the Kukurbit prison, focusing particularly on the hill children, wild wood things that have found shape in the physical world. Something called a Singlefoot, a horned mountain dweller, is brought back from some kind of embassy to the Grove of Green Immortals. Collars expresses his irritation that Gervinus Van Loren refuses to assist in its containment. The Singlefoot somehow conjures an earthquake that cracks the tower and enables its escape. Collars determines that it should not have been permitted to dream while kept beneath the earth. It had access to sufficient scale aspect to use its arts of hill and hollow to develop an old moment into an earthquake name. He mandates above-ground confinement for all hill children prisoners in the future. I don't know why I kept the Hive's Lament like that. It's a persistent memory, but... The Queens of the Rivers, a surreal contemporary play by the enigmatic Monica Medina, in which the Queens of the Rivers are murdered one by one. I think I was mistaking it for the old moment, but anyways, that was something that bothered me since the last stream. A surreal contemporary play by the enigmatic Monica Medina, in which the Queens of the Rivers are murdered one by one. The Queen of the Vistula is poisoned, the Queen of the Dnieper chokes on a fishhook, the Queen of the Tagus is burnt alive. The culprit, it transpires, is the audience. The surviving queens are directed to execute whatever audience members do not escape. A surprisingly lucid epilogue suggests that the correspondence of river names with historical events does provide clues to secret histories behind our own. Okay, so I want to use the one that I've got sort of the most surplus of. In this case, that would be the metal. And that'll just be for the intuition. I'm on my Lars Westergren kick. I also think it's fair to say we're going to have more elements of the soul by the end of today than we really know what to do with. So let's kind of get some of these extras out of the way. I don't want to get too reckless with it, but we have sort of enough space right now to play around a bit. Now, let's have a think. So if I did Metal Disciplines of the Scar... Interesting. Right. Okay. So I was mistaking Disciplines of the Hammer. Okay, I am actually willing to give up that contradiction. This is partly experimental at this point, but... Oh, you know what I didn't do, though? Queue up some money. It does a lot with Silence This Man. Okay. I'll hire this one for a day. Consulting engineer's assistant. So for those, if it wasn't clear what I did here, it's the combination of money and an element of the soul to find the unusual help. That gets you a draw, and then you can hire them. But in this case, it costs 24. So a consulting engineer can find plenty of work in the mines and towns of the region, but Hush House represents an unusual and interesting challenge. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try and work towards opening up. We've got a 4-forge character right now, so what we'll try and do here is try and open up the impermeable cell. The other thing that's helpful about the consulting engineer is that they get a little bit more in terms of interaction. So they'll take an element of the soul, beverage, memory, fuel, sustenance, and tool, as opposed to Denzel, who takes memory, beverage, element of the soul, beverage, memory, fuel. Oh, hang on, is that different? I thought for some reason Denzel would take, I thought Denzel took metal. Oh yeah, no, here we go. Okay, so element of the soul, metal, beverage, memory, sustenance, and tool. The difference here is that if it really comes down to it, iotic essence counts as fuel. So I can sort of supercharge the engineer if it comes to it. But let's see if we can do a little bit better. So it starts with 4, and we'll use the metal. So that gets us up to 6. From there... So I think I've got a memory which will take that up to 9. The tool takes it to 10. And then, I mean, from there, I suppose it's the question of what exactly do I want to be throwing at the problem. I don't think bitter black salts will help me in this case. Yeah. So again, for the target, it's 5. So the easy answer here, of course, is just throw the iotic essence at the problem. My other alternative here would be Honeyscar Jasmine Tea. But then the almonds only give the 1 forge. I'd probably need to cook beef or something like that. Okay, I have a rough idea in terms of how I'm going to handle this. So we'll start with the metal. So I think the metal, the tool, and the iotic essence should give me enough time to build the things that I need. If I'm completely honest, I think I probably could have gotten away with doing a few more things today. But I'll settle for building up and opening the impermeable cell. Our course is fixed. So we'll use the tool. I guess we can do spanners in this case. When you need them, you need them. I think the Honeyscar Jasmine Tea would be the better option if it comes down to it. All right, let's focus on the 5 creations first. 5 creations. The itinerant local scholars Shohai debated 5 possible origins for humanity with a hooded figure since claimed to be the beach crow. Shohai later claimed that all these accounts had proven false, but the debate was nevertheless recorded. The carapace origin. We were born from shell, like the children of the wasp from the spider. The glorious origin. Our life motes descended from light. The origin befouled. We were found naked and smeared in the muck in the roots of the wood. Shohai's preferred theories are that we are all children of apes who walked upright, although his tone here is satirical, or that we consumed not only our parents, which is not the crime of the sky, but also our origin, so that we came from nowhere. So 2 resurgences and emergences for me to work with. And we get a gossip for our trouble, which is inconvenient for my shelving, if I recall correctly. Yes. I'm wondering if I have a good alternative. I think I'm going to content myself with overflow up here. All right, let's start making something with this. So I think I'm going to prioritize Desires and Dissolution. If nothing else, it's just the furthest to the left out of the options. So we'll use the Satisfaction, the Stolen Secret, and the Gossip for the start. I wonder what happened to my intuition. Oh, there. All right, and we will apply the Arab. Another fruit plucked from knowledge's tree. Improve the skill to level 4. The Concursum Diaries, the diaries of the explorer and murderer Lars Westergren. He's unhelpfully translated them into Frisian for privacy. There are map legends, there are maps of legends, and there are legends of maps. Aspects of the Mansis subsist in all of these, in much the same way that you find water in a swamp, and in a cup, and in the sky. Westergren describes a series of expeditions into the Mansis. He focuses on the details of the experience, the colors, the vistas, the textures, rather than the practicalities. He does warn that the Mansis changes each year, although he assures the reader that the doors have been the same. Doors may close, but they never disappear, at least not while there have been mortals in the Mansis. We're like mice. So I do have a couple of weak preferences in terms of how I'm going to be ordering these various elements, but as an intermediate step, again, I'm really just thinking of some extra things that I can do with my time here. So I'm going to read another contradiction. I think I am safe enough to start doing some gardening again. I don't think this will work, but yeah, the earth is quiet, not barren, only sleeping. Harvesting is possible in a different season. Huh, wasn't expecting that. And I'll do Honey Scar one more time here just because it does give me... I guess Stone Stories will work. Alright, we're still working on the other explorations. There's not much else for me to do there. I also think it's a little late in the day for me to try any other readings. I can definitely see a couple situations where I would be able to make it work, but I'd much rather do it at my own pace than sort of scramble around for things to do. So we'll just kind of let these run out, and then the main goal of the day is now going to be unlocking the last of the cells and the second to last of the rooms in the Kukerbit. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So in this case here, I think I can afford to just earn at the Sweet Bones without thinking too much about it. Alright, this tool has boosted their aspects appropriately. As indicated, we will use the iotic essence. I can offer my assistants fuel for light or for heat. And actually, on that note, perhaps I put the got a replacement now. Keeper level edge, a winning move is a precursor to invincible audacity. Alright, Those who've studied the hours of the edge often say the world is a war, the chorality. Every event that might happen differently is a battle in that war, a contention between alternate outcomes. The wisdoms can sometimes show those battles might be won. Okay, so that wasn't exactly what I was expecting. But what I want to see now... winning move to start. I was working on that contradiction. Oop. Oh, that's upsetting. Okay. Yes, I can use the Arab here. Okay, now I'm really confused. I guess it makes serpent milk then. So that is inconvenient for me here for sure. Because the disciplines of the hammer is not remotely close enough. And in fact, I believe even if I have the contradiction, this is still coming up short. What I could try to do, though, as an intermediate, and maybe to confirm the hypothesis, take the alchemist glassware, we will take the disciplines of the scar. We will then take the winning move for the right. That doesn't take edge. It's the... okay. Then we can do that at the Hall of Voices. Same story. Now, Cat's Claw is an option here. Okay, apparently I only put it in the greenhouse. But which greenhouse? Unbelievable. All right. Serpent's milk it is. What? Oh, right. Oh, hang on. Nope, it's got to be a cooking ingredient. So I can use it to make, but I can't use it to... Well, the one thing I can do, just so I can see it in the list. Right, it's a flower. It doesn't have a leaf aspect. Sorry, I really need to find something with a leaf. Good enough. All right, there we go. I'm invested now, so let's see. I don't recall if there are any workplaces that have edge aspect. This, unfortunately, doesn't allow me to put the things that I need into the slots. I think I'm going to be coming up short on... Well, no, sorry. There's an obvious choice for a workbench. Yeah. All right. That's inconvenient. Sea-strewn, salt-snared stuff. And an egg. Okay. Well, I'll still take the opportunity to do a little bit of education, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. So we'll take the serpent's milk. The bronze knife will work here as well. I may have to settle for the tea, because I don't think I've got a second serpent's milk kicking around. I mean, 12 on its own is not that bad, so... Cool! I didn't think we'd get an invincible audacity out of that. So I've kind of seen what I have to. The question now is, where do I get those extra points? So, if... Oh no, hang on, this is a lot easier than I thought. I can't do it at a desk. This is actually a little more difficult than I thought. No, I've got it. Yeah, I'm gonna need 30 seconds for it, so I may want a plan B, but... Alright, the skill is now level 4, its power aspects have also increased. Actually, I'm gonna try and keep the bird in the hand in mind. So somewhere here. There we go. The dog will craft me the invincible audacity. Extend your understanding into a more potent edge lesson. Takes 2 minutes, but I'll make it work. Oh, and I still need to level up desires and dissolutions. So satisfying to have come so far. Improve the skill to level 5. Okay, so if I get a memory with 3 forge, I can get the consulting engineer up to 15. Otherwise, I can use the forge and, well, it's not that terrible to give up the Roskragan whiskey, so I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. Observations on the Peacock Door. Nangala of Lagash discusses the Peacock Door, the highest door available to mortals in the Mansis, a rent, an imperfection, an abrasion. Notably, the book is written in Vac, which, by some accounts, is another aspect of the Peacock Door itself. Nangala addresses this by apologizing courteously to the door, and the language at the end of every section. The Peacock Door did not exist, Nangala says, in the days when the gods from stone entered the Mansis. They used the fanged key to open the Savage Door, a door not usually available to mortals. Speech, as the initiates of Kion would have it, is a wound. I fear that through that wound the blood of the Mansis flows even now, and that one day speech will be an end to dream. I fear that, but I fear the excuse me, the alternative far more. So I don't have quite the same need for the contradiction, but I'll keep it around. I'm trying to think if I want to do anything. I think I'll just let this run for a bit. And I know we're at time, but I want to see if I can maybe push the consulting engineer to a slightly higher level. The skill is now level 5. Its power aspects have also increased. All right, so let's move. One thing I could be doing is preparing for the upcoming salon. I haven't really thought about who I will invite. I don't have a ton left in terms of... So, like, these 4 will be tied up in the Kuker bit. We might be able to make something happen with it, but yeah. Actually, I think I will, just because I've got some work for the salon to go, I think maybe this will be a good place to end it then. So I will... The last thing I'll do is feed... Actually, sorry. Changing my mind all over the place. I will take this. I will feed the last of the whiskey to the consulting engineer. Nice drop. I can offer my assistants something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. So in tomorrow's episode, we'll be ready to open up the impermeable cell. Again, depending on how the day goes, we may cross over into Numa. If we do, then we have to break up. There's a comment I'll make in terms of how I could have prepared better for Numa, but I'll save that for when Numa actually happens. But yeah, if we wind up with Numa, then I want to break up a skill and use that to sort of raise the floor of a few of the skills that I'm going to want to add to the tree. And if it's not Numa, then, you know, we're going to focus on more of the house, and particularly on maybe doing those preparations that I just mentioned there. But I don't want to take too much more of your time. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.